channel. How we all doing? Off the underside again, and we've got another treat today. We've got another ex-footballer, a Partick Thistle legend, Clyde, Scarborough, Norwich. It's Jamie Mitchell. How you doing, pal?
Good, Jamie. Thank you very much. Very
Good
well.
morning,
Enjoying
mate.
the sunshine, which is great.
It's lovely, isn't it, man? It's not often we get
Yeah.
that.
No, it's unusual, mate, to be fair.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. No, I really appreciate you coming on, mate. We've had a few on before, a couple of ex-footballers, really enjoyed it, so looking forward to this one, mate.
Yeah.
So, like we always do, mate, like you always do, take us back to the very start when you were a young man growing up. When did you realise that you had a bit of talent? When was your first memory of playing football?
Yeah. So I grew up in Fernhill, Rutherglen. I don't know if you know it. So I went to Cathkin Primary. So it was kind of then that I realised that I wasn't too bad at football. So just playing at the playground and stuff like that, and I realised I was probably better than the rest. So it just kind of came from there. And just every day I had the ball in my hand and I was just playing all the time. So I didn't really want to do anything else. So it's always been in the family. My mum and dad were good players. My cousin was good. Got to a decent level. Never quite made it to professional level. So I'm pleased to say I've done the best out of all of them, which is great. So hopefully a child of mine can do better than me. But so just from a young age, just football was all I knew.
I've seen that you started your CS forms and stuff like that in Norwich. How did that come about?
Yeah, so I was playing for Rangers Boys Club. So I signed for Rangers Boys Club in 1986. So I'd have been 10-year old. And so we'd had Charlie Miller was a year above me, and Barry Ferguson was a year below me. So I was kind of aware of those two kind of growing up. So as I say, I was playing for Rangers and we were winning everything, which was great. And I was kind of playing well and shining in that environment. So I had a few clubs after me at that point. Rangers tried to sign me on S forms up till I was 16. At the age of 11, I was at the time. So that was with Walter Smith and Gordon Neely and stuff was the youth development officer at the time. So I had dealings with him. And I had Tottenham in for me and Norwich come in for me as well. So we played a tournament called the Canary Cup down in Norwich, which is quite a big international youth tournament. So I was playing for Rangers at that tournament. And I think that's where Norwich seen me and then invited me down during the school holidays to train and stuff like that. And play a few games and then just progress from there. And the youth development officer was a guy called Gordon Bennett, of all things. I don't know if you remember him. He ended up at Aberdeen. He was at Aberdeen in the kind of late 90s, early 2000s as chief exec. So he was kind of running the youth department in Norwich. So he drove up from Norwich to Glasgow. From Norwich to Glasgow to my small family home in Fernhill and offered us a remarkable opportunity for us to move down there, and they bought us a house, and I'd moved down at 12 and they had the kind of career path set out for me. So we decided as a family that would be the best route for me in terms of try to get into the first team. We felt that was the best pathway, even though we're all Rangers fans growing up and that type of stuff, and my parents are all Rangers, kind of daft and stuff like that. But I think the opportunity to go down there was too good to not take, considering where we lived as well. I mean, we lived in quite a small wee kind of masonette. I don't know if you know Fernhill, but a wee masonette flat in Rutherglen, and it wasn't the greatest of places. I mean, I had a great time growing up, but it wasn't the nicest of area. It was just like a wee scheme as such. So to go from there to what Norwich were prepared to pay and buy us the house was just like, it was like Disneyland. It was like night and day. Yeah. So we decided to take that deal, and so I moved down when I was 12 and went to school down there and everything.
Wow. So see, you were saying, did you notice a difference when you were in training at Norwich when you were at Rangers? Was there a big difference?
Yeah, straight away. So we would train at Rangers, so I played for the boys club, but we would train at Rangers, we'd be at Ibrox and then we'd be at the Albion Tuesday and Thursday nights. But going down to Norwich, it was just, even back then, it was just, they had their own indoor facility. and it was just proper professional, even from the age of
Yeah.
12-year-old. Everything you were doing was geared towards you making it as a professional.
Mhm.
At that time at Rangers, it was more about winning at under 12 level or under 11 level and making sure you could win the tournaments you're playing and the leagues you're playing in, whereas at Norwich, it was more about individual player development, and you would have coaches who would be giving you, advice and coaching you as such in your position from the age of 12 all the way onwards. So that was a big difference.
What about kind of the older players and that? How did they treat you? I know you think you had a wee bit of bother with a couple of them, didn't you?
So I come through the youth ranks, and then I turned pro in 1995, so I just turned 18, and it was when Norwich were doing well, so being in the UEFA Cup, and they beat Bayern Munich. I don't know if you remember that at the Olympics Day. I think the only English team to ever do that, so they beat them 2-1. Jeremy Goss and they all scored the other goal, Mark Bowen, I think. But so they had a lot of good top pros playing for them at the time. So Chris Sutton was there, Real Fox. Yeah, I know. So I used to clean Chris Sutton's boots and stuff like that. So I remember him very well. And then I played against him in later years when I went to Thistle and he was at Celtic and stuff. So I know him. I know his dad because he coached at Norwich and stuff like that as well. But okay, it was just in those days in the mid-90s and at English clubs, probably the same up here, where they would treat YTS boys disgracefully, really. And I was no different than the other ones, but some of the stuff they made us do was ridiculous. So I think that was just the way it was in those days. I don't think they can do it nowadays, some of the stuff that would go on. But yeah, so that was probably the bit of baller that you're talking about, Jamie. It was probably just the way, when I look back at how I was treated, and my fellow YTS boys were treated at that time, was completely out of order. And they probably wouldn't get away with it nowadays.
That's the thing. You see a lot of ex-players and that talking about how, you can't treat the young boys like that, the way you used to and stuff like that. And they talking about it like it's a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? Like it doesn't make them anymore. You can't speak to them like that anymore. But obviously there is some elements of that is a good thing to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's. I think it should be a balancing act. I mean, it's probably went too far the other way now, but when I was playing, it was bordering on like proper. I use the term loosely, but abuse. It was pretty bad. Some of the stuff that we had to do. Christmas time, we had to sing naked and all that rubbish. like on the treatment table and sing in front of the whole staff and things like that. And when you look back, you go, that's a bit dodge. It's. And you had to do it because it was part of the way it was. If you didn't do it, you'd get absolutely crucified from your teammates and people alike. So you were deemed maybe not to have the character or resilience to be able to make it as a pro. So you had no choice really. So it's just stuff like that, and but don't get me wrong, it was a weird to say, it was a brilliant 2 years as well. If I look back at it as something that parts of it was disgraceful, but parts of it I really enjoyed, and it probably made me how I am today. Some of the bad stuff on made me kind of resilient and be able to deal with stuff that maybe I wouldn't have been able to done if I wouldn't have been through that, if that makes sense. So it does give you certain skills, but I think nowadays maybe a bit too soft, but I think a balancing act is the best way forward for young players.
Aye, there's character building, and after there's the other end of the spectrum type of thing, like dancing about naked on the medical table and stuff like that.
Yeah, wasn't great. Wasn't great. I sung well though, my singing was brilliant, but I don't know. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, I remember it well.
I was going to ask you about that. I didn't really like I kind of want to move on now, to be honest.
So see, in the youth team at Norwich, maybe, was there any players that stood out?
Yeah, so you do a 2-year YTS, so there's always obviously a conveyor belt coming through. My year group, there was the two players that made it was myself and Danny Mills. So Danny obviously played for England at the World Cup and stuff like that. So when I moved down when I was 12, he lived around the corner from me. So me and him come through each age group together. I wouldn't say I was particularly friendly with him, but obviously he was my teammate of mine. He's probably who you can imagine he would be. So he was there. Craig Bellamy was 2 years below me. So when I was first year pro, he was he was an apprentice.
Yeah.
So he was also there, and a few others that kind of played lower league, but they were probably the two standout ones that went on to do good things. And I went on to do an all right thing. I probably should have done better, but they two done exceptionally well.
See,
That's
even
what I was
at
gonna
that
ask.
age. Oh,
Sorry.
sorry, Jamie, you go. I was just going to say, see that age, did you know that Danny and Craig would probably have the career that they have, or do you do like they're just going to be all right type thing?
Yeah,
Did
well,
you
I think
not know at the time?
no, that's a good question. The difference with probably Danny Mills and most players I've ever played with in my life is his attitude. He was just relentless at the age of 12, 13, 14, where he'd be constantly working on himself, his left foot, his right foot, because he was blessed with the most talent. He's not the most talented player in the world, he'll be the first to admit that. But as a determined individual, he was probably second to none. So he always had that. He always had that level above myself or other players because he just had that drive and determination. I don't think I had that. I just relied on my own natural talent, but he had that drive and determination. So, funnily enough, when we went to a youth tournament in Austria at under 11, under 12 with Norwich, and we beat Bayern Munich in the final. But the coach, he done a journal. And we didn't know this throughout the tournament. He done a journal, and then at the end of the tournament, he rated all the boys, which at 11 is quite harsh to think, but he gave them ratings for your passing, shooting, heading, tackling, speed, all different kind of characteristics. And then there was one at the end saying potential to make it as a professional, and this was at 11. And mine's was, and bear in mind, Norwich were buying a house for me at this time. Mine's was, I think it was 8. I think it was 8 out of 10 chance to make it, and Danny Mills was 9. And I remember my mum going off from that, going,
"How's she bearing my boy?"
Exactly. phoning the club up and all that. But even then, they must have because I won player of the tournament and all that, so I was scoring the goals and doing really well. But he had rated Danny Mills as having the most potential, even though my passing was better. He had rated him as the most potential. So it's funny, even at that age, you can see probably boys that you think, they're if the luck goes with them and they stay in that zone, they will make it to a good level. Craig Bellamy he was always very skillful, and he was quick, but he seemed to gain pace as he got older. I don't know where that speed came from. He was quick when I was there, but how, I don't know, it must have been sports science or something, because he was rapid, when I seen him at Liverpool and even at Celtic when he came on loan and stuff like that, he was absolutely rapid, and I don't think he was ever that quick at Norwich. So, but you could tell he'd great ability, yeah.
How do you look back on your time at Norwich, though, football-wise, as in, because it wasn't a day with talent, you didn't break into the team, mate, let's be honest. So what was the reasons that, didn't quite work out there?
Yeah, I mean, I was training, and I was kind of involved in first team squads and stuff when I was 18. So I was in my first year pro, and Martin Neal was the manager. So Martin Neal, who I came across quite a lot in my career, was the manager. And I remember we had a training game between the first team and the reserves, but people could come and watch it. And I was playing for the reserve team, and I played really well and scored a pretty good goal and stuff like that. And my mum and dad were at the side, and he turned round to my mum and said, Jamie's probably the most talented player we've got. He says, but I'm not sure if he's strong enough. He says he reminds me of my brother, who never made it, and Martin O'Neill did make it. So he says my brother was a better player than me, but he made it, and my brother didn't. He says he reminds me slightly of him. Again, I remember my mum going off her head to the side. But I look back and go, yeah, you're totally right, Jamie. I think from a talent point of view, then I felt pretty comfortable in that environment. I am only 5'8", and I probably wasn't the strongest guy in the world. But if I'm sitting in a house worth whatever it's worth, 250 grand that Norwich own, and that's an asset, then they know I'm not the strongest guy in the world. Surely you would put me on some sort of training plan or program to develop that side of me if they felt, So I look back and go, was it circumstances at the time? Norwich got relegated and they lost. You know what it's like if you come out of the Premiership and you don't get back promoted. We're sitting in a house worth what, you know, that kind of money. They need the money. They can't afford to wait for me to bulk up. So I remember getting into it was Gary Megson because Martin O'Neill left to go to Leicester. And Gary Megson was in charge from the kind of January to the end of the season. I always got on well with him and I felt he really liked me. And I walked in expecting to sign another 2 or 3 year deal. I remember the players saying to me, "Oh, here's the manager's son coming in," and all that. I had no inkling of what I was told. It was just a complete bolt out the blue to sit down and get told what I was told. It was totally unexpected. So, and that was 29 years ago, and it's still at the back of my throat a wee bit. I'm going, I can't believe that kind of happened. But as I say, it was circumstance. So I feel a wee bit. It wasn't the fact I wasn't good enough. It was the fact that they felt I wasn't strong enough, and I'm sitting in a house worth a fortune, and they need to sell it because they need the money, and that was pretty much it. So I was told within 15 minutes. I'd been there 7-8 years, and I was told within 15 minutes that unfortunately we're going to have to release me, and they need to sell the house, and that was it.
Maybe
I had to break the news to the parents and stuff like that. So it's, you know, it's something you don't like. How do you can't prepare for that. You can't, you know, train yourself for that when you're having to tell them. I'm an only child, so it was just the three of us that moved down, and they'd been here for 40 odd years in Scotland, and they moved down for me to give me the best possible opportunity to make it. So I felt on one hand I'd let them down. I was only young, so I probably didn't understand it, but I felt as if, you know, I'd kind of let them down a bit, having the sacrifice that they made. So you've got all these emotions going through your head at that point. So it was just, you're just stunned. Yeah.
It's pretty savage, especially what you saying, 18, 19, you were that age, and they're telling you basically you have to chuck your mum and dad out the house.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
You've got 3 weeks. I had 3 weeks or they had 3 weeks to move out. And they stayed down. I mean, I was really lucky when I look back how it worked out, because the Norwich assistant manager to Megson at that time, who we can go on to talk about in a minute, was a guy called Mick Wadsworth, who ended up as Gretna manager about 10, 15 years ago, when Gretna were kind of in the Scottish Cup and stuff. You know, they were in the Premier League and stuff. So Mick ended up manager of Gretna, but he was assistant manager at Norwich, and then at that time he'd been approached by Scarborough, who were in English League 2 at the time, to take over as manager. And then he said to me, because obviously I'd worked with him from Norwich for the past 6 months, he invited me up there for talk. So I quickly moved I had a couple of other options, but I thought that was the best option for me. So I moved out pretty quickly and moved up to the northeast. But my mum and dad were luckily got another place because my mum had met this amazing friend who they really got close to, and she owned an old folks home. So she used to have a care home, and she put my mum and dad up at the top of the care home, so they lived above all the old people for a year. So, you know, they've gone from this house to living in the top of a old folks home, and I moved to Scarborough, which in hindsight was a great thing. So that's how it worked out. But yeah, I don't know what they would have done. They'd have probably moved back up here or something, but they were really settled down there, you know. So they'd have been about my age now when they get told. No, they'd been younger than me when they get told to move out. So it's like having to move. You'd be told like you need to move out this house. Thinking, you know, you've been living in it for 7 years and you've got, it's just it's a bit of a strange situation. I think it's pretty unique that time. I don't think it was allowed. So I remember leaving my high school. So I was at high school for 1 year up here, and it was all, I wasn't allowed to tell anyone that I was moving down there. It was all, it broke out. I mean, Daily Record tried to contact me and stuff like that, but I wasn't allowed to say that the club had bought me a house. I think it was inter-country rules or something, because I was moving from Scotland to England at the age I was. I don't know if it was like allowed as such. So I just left school one day and that was it. I told a few of the guys at school, and then I said, I'm away, see you later. And then that was it. So Yeah, but I had a fantastic time down there, Jay. I wouldn't change it, to be honest with you. I would go to the gym when I was 16. That's what I would do. That's the only thing I would change. I would build myself up. But in terms of my lifestyle I had and how I was brought up and everything, the education I had, then I wouldn't change a thing.
How did you find your time at Scarborough? Did you enjoy your time there?
Lost you a bit.
I think he's saying, Stephen, you were at Scarborough. Did you enjoy your time there?
Scarborough was amazing for different reasons. So, as you can imagine, so like living in a family home at Norwich and stuff like that, all the focus was on football, and that was my life. And then for the first time, I'd kind of broke free as such, but I moved out of the house. So I moved away when I was 19. I didn't want to move, but I did, and I got they bought a flat for me as well, funnily enough, but they just rented it for me, so I didn't own it. It was always knew it was rented, kind of rent free. So I had a brilliant time there. It's probably my favourite 2 years of my life, actually, from 19 to 21. Met some brilliant people, and then I played first team football for 2 years and a good team, and we got to the playoffs.
A few goals as well, didn't you?
Yeah, so I won the first year, I won Young Player of the Year, which was brilliant. And then the second season, we got to the playoff. So we're one game away from Wembley to get promoted to League One. And then we get beat, and then that team get just, broke up.
Right.
Because I think they put quite a bit of money into try to get promoted, and then it get broke up, so I left. But Mick Wadsworth was the manager, and what a guy he was, man. I don't know how to describe him. Well, I do know how to describe him, but I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do it gracefully.
I was just thinking there, like between 19 and 20, and you're living in your own house, must have been a bit of mayhem.
So like I don't know if you guys have ever been to Scarborough before. So it's like a coastal town in the northeast. So it's like a kind of holiday resort for a lot of people, or it used to be. And it's lovely. It's a lovely wee town, great beaches and stuff like that. So it's like a typical seaside resort where you've got a lot of holidaymakers come in the summer, but in the winter it's horrendous. So there was about 4 or 5 of us that had signed for the club that had lived. So some were from Barnsley, some were from Leeds, kind of my age, and we all moved to Scarborough as well. So guys around about my age all moved there, and we would finish training at 12, half 12, and then the manager he lived miles away in Yorkshire somewhere, so he was away. There was no local kind of presence. It was just the fans in the town or just people that lived there. So you were left to your own devices when you finish training. So if you're being a pro, you should really be looking after yourself and stuff like that. But it's too tempting at that age for me at 19, 20, as you say. And then with these guys who I became really friendly with, you're just having a good time. You're getting paid well. You're playing for the first team, and you're kind of let off the leash. And that's how I felt.
You only live once. I mean,
I know.
Maybe I'll enjoy it.
I look back and I go, I probably should have done. When I won Young Player of the Year, I was doing well my first season, but then the second season, I let myself go a bit, which is a regret on one hand. And then on the other hand, you go, it was a great 2 years for me. And I went a boy and I come back a man. It was one of them, like totally, like the difference between me going to finishing was just night and day. So I had a fantastic time. I still go back every year. They've got a Legends match at the beginning of July, and I see all my old teammates. We all get together, and you go to the local pub. And we used to play a game against the Current because Scarborough got liquidated in 2007. The company may add, no the club. So Scarborough, the company that ran the football club got liquidated, and then reformed as a Phoenix club called Scarborough Athletic, and they play back in the town now. So they're in the division below the conference, so it's Conference North. So they've managed to work their way back up. But a few years ago, the idea was that the Scarborough FC team would play against the legends of the Scarborough Athletic team, but obviously they're a lot younger than us. They're about, probably 14, 15 years younger than us. So when we first started playing, a lot of us were early 40s, and we'd give them a good game and we'd beat them. And it was a good crowd would turn up, and we'd make it a big kind of gala day and stuff like that. And then the last time we played them, we were just too old, and they beat us like 6 or 7-0, man. I was like, can't I play anymore? So, but we still go down and just all of us get together and have a laugh. So, from that perspective, I had a brilliant 2 years, you know.
It's
Great
like
2 years.
yin and yang thing, innit? Like, be more professional or have like memories type of thing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I had a couple of teams come in for me when I played there, and then you think to yourself, if I'd have knuckled down, then probably my career path would have been different. But I feel I was always going to get this injury, which we'll talk to you in about a minute. I was always going to get that. I was destined to get that. So if I would have went down a different career path, then I knew I was always going to get this, which I didn't know at the time. So it's just like, I don't really think I would change much. I don't think I would.
So how did your time at Scarborough come to an end then? How'd that come about? Obviously, you had a couple of good
seasons
there. So.
Yeah, so we got to the playoff finals. I was saying to the lads there, we got to playoff finals and we drew Torquay, and they'd finished third and we'd finished fifth, I think. And a lot of money had been put into that team to, you know, we'd guys like, I don't know if you remember them, like Andy Ritchie, who played up front. He used to play for Man United, Oldham and stuff like that. Gary Bennett used to play for Sunderland, was a centre half. Really good players. Ian Snowden played for Everton. So we had a really good mix between experience and youth, but they put a lot of money into it. And Scarborough crowds, we used to get like 4,000 or 5,000 per game if you're doing well. So I think maybe the chair was losing a bit of money. So every effort got put into getting promoted. We never get promoted. So at the end of that season, a lot of boys were out of contract. And then when it came to renegotiation, and my relationship with Mick was with that point, there was probably no point renegotiating because he probably hated me and I hated him. So I know hate's a strong word, but he's a brilliant coach, magnificent coach and tactical awareness at that time. He used to be in England. He was at England's coach with Bobby Robson at the World Cup. So his football knowledge is brilliant, but he's never a manager because he couldn't communicate properly and his man management was disgraceful. So some of the stuff he'd done to the young lads or how he would communicate to us was, you know, unbelievable, really. And I'm sounding like as if I'm a broken record here because the same man did Norwich as a YTS, but honestly, because I played under John Lambane, he's notoriously meant to be one of the worst, you know, in terms of old school managers, but he's the best guy I've ever played under. It's just how you communicate with people, and I thought. So the relationship with Mick wasn't great. And that's how it came to an end. So a lot of the boys left at the end of that season in 1998. And yeah, so at that point I went back down to Norfolk. So my mum and dad were still down there. And I took a few months because I felt like so much pressure on me. I just felt like I needed a bit of time. But my mum made me, you're not giving up and all that. And so she drove me to continue. And I'm obviously thankful that she did. So then Clyde gave me an opportunity to move back up here. And it was at the time when they signed a lot of the junior players. So I don't know if you remember that time, 1998, 99, the Clyde were struggling, and then they had a change of direction, got rid of a lot of high earning kind of older players that had probably used Clyde as a vehicle when their careers were coming to an end. We'll get a couple of grand a week off Clyde. And a new chairman come in, chief executive, Ronnie McDonald, who ended up at Hamilton. He came in and decided we got a different direction. So he signed a lot of the top junior players at the time. Mark McLaughlin, Jack Ross, Pat Keogh, Andy McClay, Richie McCusker, these guys. And I signed as well. And we breezed the league. We breezed the second division, so won it fairly convincingly with these guys who were amazing. And it just goes to show you there's probably a lot of good junior players that just don't get the opportunity at senior for whatever reason. But those guys come in and prove that myth that, you know, there's a lot of, I remember back at the time, there's a lot of people looking their nose down at Clyde because they signed these junior guys, but they were better than a lot of the senior players. So, and it was proven by the fact that we won the league pretty easily. And then we went into the first division of the championship as it's known now, and we were really strong in that. And I was 4 years at Clyde, and I not really got a bad word to say about my 4 years. I had a great time.
See when you first went back. See when you first went to Clyde, though. Sorry,
yeah.
Was it like just like a fresh start for you? Do you know what I mean? Like a new, Is a new lease of
Yeah.
life sort of thing?
I'd never played up here before. I'd never, from the age of 11, 12, so I was intrigued to see what the standard would be like. Because obviously I played at English League 2, which is a physical league, which ironically, when I'm saying I wasn't strong enough for the Premier League, but I could play in League 2 pretty easily. So I was intrigued to see the standard, and I felt that the standard up here was probably better than League 2 in terms of technically. I think it's physically stronger down there, and they've got a lot of big guys. But up here at that time, there's a lot of good footballing teams. So it was like a kind of fresh start, and a bit of a point to prove. But I kind of lost a wee bit of drive. So even when I come back up here, my heart still wasn't fully in it to begin with. When I look back, I know it wasn't. I just done it because I felt as if I was getting made to do it. I think I quite happily stopped at that point. But I was made to do it, and obviously I'm glad that I was made to do it. But it took me a wee while to kind of shake off what happened at Scarborough and get the confidence back. And it came back, and I won Player of the Year 3 years in a row and stuff like that, and a great relationship with the fans. And I felt really, I was at the kind of top of my game, and I found it no easy. I don't mean it easy, but I was very comfortable playing at that level, and I knew I could go higher. I knew I could go up to the Premier League. I knew I had the talent to do it. So Clyde was amazing. It didn't end great, but for reasons which we can discuss. But
we're going to get to that.
It was from a club perspective and fans, yeah, it was great.
How did that come about? Because of your move to Partick Thistle, because obviously they are, which I didn't really know. I didn't know they were actually that fierce rivals beforehand. But how did that come about? Like a rival club trying to poach another. How's that even technically allowed? If you know what I mean.
So this was in 2002, and so my contract was coming to an end. So I knew that it would take a lot for me to sign again because I did 4 years there, and I knew I wanted to play in the SPL. I was 25 at the time, and I'd coming up 26, so I knew it was a crucial kind of time for me. And I had a really good season, so I had a few clubs in for me, and it was coming towards the end of my contract. And there's stuff that goes on in the background. There's phone calls made. People say there's not. It is. People phone and say, you know what I mean. So that's what happens. I don't know how it happens nowadays through agents or whatever, but there's no secret. So I knew there was interest from a few clubs. My contract actually ran out in the May with Clyde because they had some weird contract where it was only 10 months of the year. So, in other words, you wouldn't get paid through the close season, even at championship level. Between June and July, you weren't getting paid. So I knew my contract finished as soon as the season was finished. And then I went and so I got invited to Firhill, and Hearts were in for me and Motherwell were in for me. So I knew there was interest from those two. Clyde offered me a good deal to stay, but as I say, I just felt that I needed to go. And then I went and met John Lambie, who I played against Thistle that season. So that was the season Thistle won the league. I think Clyde had finished. I think we finished 4th or something. So I didn't know him personally, but I obviously knew of him. I seen him at the side of the pitch and heard them shouting and bawling and stuff like that. So you get in with these expectations of what he's going to be like. So I went and met him, and I've never met a guy like him, man. He was just like one of the world's just great guys, man. He was just so infectious, so made me feel like I was the best player in the world, and I was going to make a big difference to Thistle. They'd just been promoted to Premier League, so I knew they were going up. And it's just his way he spoke to me and the way he talked to me and how he was going to utilise me in the team. And when I added everything up, and they were a Glasgow team, and I just, something inside me felt like I just want to play for that guy. I didn't really think about it from a money perspective. Obviously, my wages would go up, and Thistle were paid a fairly basic wage in the Premier League at that time. It's common knowledge what it was. The bonuses were good. If you played and you won a game, your bonuses were good. The basic wage wasn't groundbreaking by any stretch. But I didn't really think about money. I've never really thought about it, which I don't know if it's the right thing or wrong thing. I had this gut instinct that I just want to play for that guy because I know I'll have a good time, and I know I'll love it, and I know I'll love the club because if he's there, I'll know I'll love the club. So I signed, and that's how it happened. So I didn't even speak to the other clubs. I just signed. Like 2 days later, I just signed with them, which is probably a bit silly because you don't know what the ones would be. It could have been Hearts, it could be whoever, because you know what it's like when your contract's up. But I don't know. I just took the plunge and signed. And again, it's one of them I'm glad I did, because I was there for the rest of my career, as it turns out, and I was with them in the Premier League, and I stayed with them in the First Division, highs and lows. There's stuff that happened again I can talk about, but brilliant time, majority of it.
Made me think there, but when you were talking about like the man management and stuff like that, like, you know, you had the boy at Scarborough and stuff like that who was a really good coach but didn't really have the man management style, whereas John Lambie just, you said there, you know what I mean, you just wanted to play for him. It's all the top managers, all the players that they all seem to say that, you know, all the top managers, they're good man managers, you know what I mean, they make you feel good.
I think that's a big part. Even the modern day game, I think I still maintain that there should be like a kind of managerial figure. I mean, Martin O'Neill was like that as well. Most of the good managers I played under were managers, and then the coaches would coach the players. They wouldn't be like try to do both jobs. So Martin O'Neill used to stand at the side, as Lambie would, and he would just watch training. He wouldn't take it, and he would come in every so often if he's seen somebody's body language or somebody doing something horrendous or whatever, or somebody looks as if they weren't interested. You would soon know about it. But all he would do would observe, and then he would pick the team on a Saturday, and he would do his team talks, and he would control everything. But all the coaches done would be coach players, which I think is a specialist role. Even in any walk of life, since I've retired, like managers, you get managers who are good managers who are not. So it's all about people skills and being able to manage people. It's no different in football, I don't think. You want to get players to play at the best of their ability. And so somebody who can understand who needs a pat in the back, who needs a kick up the backside, who needs pulled in at the office, who needs a dressing down in front of everybody is a skill. And if you get a coach try to do that and there's no communicating it properly, you can be the best coach in the world, but if players go, who's this guy, man?
Right.
You know, and I think that's the difference.
I was going to ask, but how did the Clyde fans? Obviously, you said you had a good like rapport with them and stuff. How did they take to your signing with Partick Thistle? I kind of know the answer, but I just kind of want to hear for yourself.
Yeah, I think they felt betrayed, to be honest, because I had such a good relationship with them and I'd won the Player of the Years, and I think I'd been quoted as saying, you know, I've no signed for anyone yet, and Thistle probably when I go to Thistle and stuff like that. That was until I met.
Aye.
I knew how strong the rivalry was, because obviously I'd played in the game for Clyde, and I knew every time we played Thistle as a Clyde player, and the fans, I knew what type of game it was, and we always seemed to do well against them. So I knew the rivalry. I didn't expect probably the backlash that I got, purely because I'd signed for Clyde and I was earning ridiculously low wages. I could have left a couple of times and I stayed when I was under contract. So I felt I gave a good account myself back to them. You know, I gave a good service to the club, and I just felt at that age that was the right time to move up to the Premier League. So I thought people maybe would understand that. I think it was maybe how it was came about at that time, and how I delivered the message probably wasn't right when I look back, which probably made it worse than actually it was. I'm still not really like with Clyde or anything like that, which is a shame. I still don't like really, and considering that's over 100 games and the trophies I won with them and stuff like that. We've got 25-year anniversary of winning the league this year. The year 2000 we won the second division, and then they had something last year with players on the pitch, and I wasn't there. But I think that's because of I'm presuming it's because of this whole thing, or maybe it's just because they think I'm like him. I don't know, but they just didn't want me there. So it's just
a
nice.
shame.
But
it's like you said, it's a shame because obviously you had you were down south and it wasn't working probably the way you had in your head going into Norwich and the Premier League and stuff like that. So they gave you, like Jamie said earlier on, a wee new lease of life. And It's one of the things. Like, football's a business in the end of the day, so it's not anything personal against them. I mean,
No, I think it's such a short career as well. I mean, a majority of players, 98% of them don't make enough money to retire on. It's only the elite ones that will make enough money to retire on. So you're, on one hand, you're obviously got loyalty to the club, but as has been proven to me, if the club don't want you, they're soon quick enough to get rid of you. So that probably hardened me a wee bit to that. That they'll soon get rid of you if things aren't, you're not an asset to them or whatever. So I was aware of that, and that probably helped me in my decision to make it. But Clyde were great for me, but I like to think how it was the same. It was reciprocated back. So relationship wasn't great. I went back to see them play in 2008 or something because my mate Ricky was playing for Clyde at the time, who's Caledonian Braves manager now, Ricky Waddle. And he was playing for Clyde at the time, so I thought I'd go back and watch him. I'd retired by that point, and I guess soon get told where to go. So like songs and all that, like vile songs. And then when I played for Thistle against them, I get some obscene shouts from the sideline.
And you can repeat now.
Probably
the
probably ones you would expect, but some of them are like
a wee bit too.
It's just like talking about family members now. You're like, oh my god, man! It's like, really,
need for that,
it's
though.
like, I know it's just, but all because I moved. But I don't want to say anything, because Clyde were brilliant, like the club were brilliant, and the fans were great. Maybe up until that point, and I understand the frustration. I understand why, because as I say, I think I hold my hands up and say that period of time I should have handled it better and maybe been a bit more respectful to their thoughts, if that makes sense.
Well, I want to talk about your thing at Partick Thistle, mate, because that's when I remember you most. That was some team you were in, by the way. Jerry Britton, yourself, James Grady, Derek Lilly, big Stephen Craigan at the back and all that, mate. That was a really good team. Kenny Arthur in goal.
Yeah, so Thistle, as I said, won the league that year. So the nucleus, a really good team, as you say. Big Jerry was there, Stephen Craigan, Alan Archibald, Kenny in goal. Derek White joined at the same time as me. So Derek White and I signed probably around about the same time. He'd signed from Aberdeen. Big Scott Patterson at the back was a brilliant player. So the starting 11 that we had at Thistle in that first season SPL was really strong, I thought. We played a 3-5-2. And I can still remember it to this day. But if you go through the team, like with a really, really strong team, Alex Burns up front, who scored a barrel load that season, and Big Jerry. So we finished like 9th, I think, 9th or 10th. But it was a really strong league at the time. So Celtic got to the UEFA Cup final and against Porto. So that was that team with Larson and, Mialby and Agat and all these guys, and Petrov, Sutton, Sutton again, Hartson. So you're playing against teams like that. And Rangers had a really strong team with De Boer and Walls and Lovenkrands and Arteta and these top class players, which meant your kind of other clubs, your Hearts and your Hibs were strong because Dundee was exceptionally strong at that time. They had Ravanelli and Kisnashvili and Natural Novo. So the league was strong, that player. So for us to finish, I think, joint 9th was a great achievement for us. And that was Lambie's final season, of course. I didn't know that at the time when I signed. I didn't know he was going to retire the season when he, but I think maybe he felt that what he'd achieved was unbelievable to keep us up and to keep us up comfortably. And amongst that, those teams and those players. But yeah, we had a really, really strong team at the time.
Who was it who came in and replaced John Lambie?
So Jerry Collins took over. So it was Jerry was his number 2, and so John retired, and Jerry took over. And quite a lot, which I was saying earlier, quite a lot of the players left Thistle. So Alex Burns went to Motherwell, Martin Hardy went to Kilmarnock, Archie went to Dundee United. I think Scott Patterson went to Dundee United, Craggs went to Motherwell. So you get 5 of your kind of strong starting 11 big characters, like not just on the pitch, off the pitch. Those 5 are probably like the loudest. I was never the loudest. I was seen as a kind of senior player. I was never the loudest in the dressing room, but they were kind of 5. So when you lose that, and then you try and replace it. We signed James Grady, who was a great wee player. So James done really well, but the other signings probably didn't work out. So we really struggled that season. But I think we were a nice football team, but we didn't have the kind of characters to drag us out and drag us to get results, which is half the battle at times. Yeah, so we struggled that season. And Jerry gets sacked in November. We'd played Celtic on the Saturday. We'd played really well and get beat 3-1, and really well. I think we probably should have took a point from the game, and I thought that maybe would have been a turning point for Jerry. Having seen us play and then he gets sacked the next day, I think, because that was November time and we were like 12 points behind. I think we only had 2 points on the board. And then Jerry Britton and Derek White took over as joint managers for the rest of the season. There was a bit of an upturn in our form, but not enough to keep us up. Jerry and Derek were great, but they were just guys in the dressing room, so it was like they'd been our teammates, and then it was always a strange dynamic, I felt, because you didn't know which one was the manager and who was the, it was just a bit strange. I don't think it really worked, and they'll be the first to admit that as well.
I was going to say about Partick Thistle now. What's your thoughts on the team and their quest for getting up for promotion?
Yeah, I would love to see them get up. I think it'd be brilliant for the league as well. Another, a good Glasgow club, great support. Then they take the away fans that they take to away grounds would be brilliant. Great stadium, great pitch. So I think they'd be a great attribute to the. I think they should be in the Premier League. I think they're big enough to be in the Premier League when you look at some of the teams in there. The team now, you look at some. They've got some good players. I went to watch them a couple of times this season, and I hope they're obviously playing tonight against Livingston. So I hope they got. I think we would beat them back in the day, right enough. But I hope they got. Yeah.
I think you would, mate, because it made me think there when you were talking about Celtic and Rangers and obviously yourselves, stuff like that. Football just isn't the same anymore. It used to be that was class back then. You know what I mean? All the teams and stuff like that. Now you just the standard. What do you agree with that? Do you think the standards kind of dropped a bit?
I think honestly, I think it's a really interesting debate, but I think it's a pretty simple answer on. It's like it's not even the same game when I watch it nowadays. It's like all the teams try and play the same. I don't think the standard's anywhere near where it used to be. And I remember somebody said to me last year, like, it wasn't could you play in today's game? I was like, how would you? You're talking to me, how do you think you would fare in today's game because it's so fast and physical? And I'm going, it's not really me. It's like it's actually really slow when you watch it, and it's so technical. They try to be so you can't really tackle, you can't really be physical. And I said, so I think I would fare all right. I said, but and I fired it back at him. I says, how? Because he's a Celtic fan. I says, how do you think Henrik Larsson would fare in today's game? And he goes, he'd probably run amok. I says, well, there's your answer, because we drew with Celtic in the League Cup, and at Parkhead 1-0. They beat us 1-0 at Firhill, where Larsson scored with 10 minutes to go. And the Celtic team that day, they're you can name it off the top of your tongue. So if that Celtic team was playing even Rangers today, that Celtic team would be 6 or 7, just sheerly on set pieces alone, because they would just bully them at the road. It would just be the centre halves against Sutton and Larsson would just be, and John Hart. That would just be like, So it's like when you compare it to that, then you go, surely we would be superior to, maybe not technically. There's a lot of good technical players nowadays, but as I say, it's a different game. So I think the question is, could players nowadays adapt to play in our era?
It feels like
vice versa.
Feels like football nowadays, like you said, it's a bit too technical. But it was like back then, it was like
give somebody the ball. It's a bit robotic.
Give somebody the ball, let them express themselves, run. But like you said, they all have their positions. They all have to stay here. It is a bit robotic, It's no.
Yeah, it's overcoached. I think a lot of it's overcoached. There's no, like you say, like you hit the nail on the head. There's no individuality where somebody maybe try and take a man on, or very rarely, take a man on or try and make something
Nobody
happen.
goes to the byline.
Aye, nobody byline, cross it, get the ball in the bottom. So watch Rangers, they try to cross it for like 40 yards out and all that. It's just
Pep
there's
Guardiola's fault.
there's no flair.
Let's just call a spade a spade. It's Pep Guardiola's fault. He started this. You know what I mean?
Aye, and every team's tried to copy him, haven't they?
Aye.
Copy or go one better.
Aye. That's what they try anyway, but not all the players have that ability to do the passing for the back and stuff like that. It's like if you see with Barcelona that Yamal, people are saying, "Oh, mind blown! Haven't seen anything like that before." That's what the wingers are meant to do. They're meant to attack the defence. They're meant to shoot from outside the box and hope for the best type of thing. It's like he's a brilliant player. I'm not saying that, but it's just
no. I agree with you. Yeah, he is a great player, but I think he probably looks even better nowadays because he's in amongst players that there's nobody that can probably touch him. Whereas back in the day, you had probably quite a lot. I'm not saying maybe they weren't as good as him, they may well be, but you had a lot of. Even Zidane and all these guys.
Aye.
Robert Pires, who was a winger. Jesus, he was sensational. And he often gets forgotten, but he was like an Arsenal legend and stuff like that. So, as you say, there's probably loads of players back then that
would have been in that ilk.
Aye. Yeah. But no, I don't think it's as good. I'm not just saying that because I would probably say if I see Gary Neville and Carragher saying about the English Premier League and how that's evolved, and it's probably a better standard than it is back when he was playing. But I genuinely don't think it is. I was thinking
because your team's not doing so well, but well.
Because I used to watch the Premier League religiously, and I hardly even watch the games because it's just the same stuff that's happening every game.
It's like chess, isn't it? It's like you have a ball, we have it, your move, our move, try and pull people out of position. But you can't do it without being physical. You can't even tackle. It's all slow motion with VAR. It's just so frustrating watching it.
Some of the tackles that you would get away with back in the day, it's sending off nowadays.
Yeah, that one in my screen, the photo with Big Valde coming through me, but I genuinely don't think that was given as a foul. I think that's one where I've got it into feet and he's just come through the back of me and won the ball.
Aye, it's like you saying like Hartson and Larsson running them up with Rangers, they'd probably be sent off for using their arms trying to win heaters.
Aye,
it's mental.
I know, and he's not even doing anything. He's just getting leverage. So it's just ruined it.
Everybody just dives in and they get the free kick.
Yeah,
you mentioned the photo. How scary was it playing against Bobo? Must have been terrifying.
You'll not believe me, man, but I didn't really get. I'm only 5'8", so I didn't really get scared. I don't know why. I just like
3 legs the way you go.
You know what it was, right? And I firmly believe this, and people will think I'm like silly and all that, right? But see, I think because I grew up in Norwich and came through that system, and I knew I was like pretty good, and I knew I had a good level of ability, and I was coached well. I didn't feel inferior or feel. See, when I was like playing at Rangers, I always wanted to run out at Ibrox. As a Rangers fan, I always wanted to run out. I done it, and I remember the first time I'm looking in the tunnel and you see Mols, De Boer, Ferguson. I've got quite a funny story about Michael Mols, actually, I'll tell you that. But these guys, and I look across at them and go, I feel as good as them. I need to prove that, or show that I'm as good as them. I didn't ever feel inferior to them, which is probably silly to anybody looking in and going, well, you play for Thistle and that type of stuff. But I thought that was the mindset I had to have, and it was the same with Celtic. And I used to think like Martin O'Neill was the manager, and I used to go on and go, well, he knows how good I am, so I need to show it. So I would go on with that kind of mindset.
It definitely is the right mindset.
Aye, and it's just I kind of carry it on since I've retired and stuff like that. I just always like have that mindset, right? I need to be the best I can be, and it's just people think it's ludicrous, then so be it. Probably is half the time, but I think if you've got that belief, I hear Barry Ferguson today, and I know exactly where he's coming from when he says, "I know I can do the job. I would back myself to do the job." I know where he's coming from with that, and people think. You've got Carlo Ancelotti's son, who's supposedly.
I was one of them. Get him out.
Aye. So people will think that because, you know, his managerial record and Kelty Hearts and what type of guy he is, but I know that the belief he'll have in himself, and whether it's right or wrong, he'll have that belief to go, I know I could go in and do this job.
Right.
And it's
Mentality.
like me when I was
You've
playing
got to
there.
have that. You've got to have that
Yeah.
to put yourself into the job.
Yeah. Aye. And I think that comes across to the players and stuff like that. So, but I don't think he'll get the job, but I can see where he's coming from with that belief thing. So that's how I felt when I was.
It's the
when I was
same nowadays, like you're saying, with that mentality that I need to be better than them and stuff like that. It was like Lennon Miller a couple of weeks ago, the comments saying he wants to be the best in the world, and people
Yeah.
kind of shut him down. It was like
Aye.
the three of us spoke about that and thought, no, you should be encouraging that. So if he wants to think he's going to be the best midfielder in the world, let him think that, because he'll have that belief and he'll get in the
Totally.
confidence mode and stuff, type
It was-
playing
it was-
games and get better and better.
I agree with you. I was
100%
taking that
agree.
context what you said right enough, but aye.
Aye. He's got. I think he was getting. He was saying he was getting into the Scotland squad in it. He wanted to be the.
Aye, wanted the best player.
Aye, which I agree with him. I think he should have that mentality. Why not?
Definitely.
You know, why could he not be better than John McGinn? He could be.
Exactly.
You know, he has to have that belief. If he goes in there and he thinks, "Oh, if I'm not as good as these guys," that will show.
Well,
So he's been in there thinking, "I need to show these guys that I'm as good as them, if no better, 100%."
Mhm.
It's just a mentality. I think a lot of times.
on the John McGinn thing, John, you never really heard the John McGinn at 18, 19. It was a wee bit when he was older, 20, 22, when
Yeah,
he started
come on.
playing, and that's when you heard him. It was his older brothers you used to hear about a lot of the time.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Aye.
You know what I mean? So, for what Lennon Miller's done in his short space already, he should be thinking like that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
What was
And
the
then
Michael
when he
Mould
gets
story,
his
by the way,
move,
before we move on?
What was the what?
Michael Mould story?
Aye, so unbelievable, man. So we'd play against Rangers at Ibrox, and like here's me blowing my trumpet again, right? But I actually played quite well. Right? And we could beat 3-1, but I actually played quite well. And you know, you've got the names in the back and all that. So I had 7 Mitch Winnie, Moles and stuff like that, obviously. And he came up to me at the end of the game and he shook my hand and he said, "Well played, Jamie. I thought you were excellent today. Well played." After the game, so he's called me my name and everything, you know, which I think you should know your fellow pros and stuff like that. So I still thought it was nice and stuff. So I'm coming off, you know, head held high, even though we get beat 3-1, but I was feeling quite good about myself. And then change, shower, out. So the following week, so I used to go out on a Saturday night, as you do. Following week, the old days, it used to be, I don't remember this, but it used to be Lloyd's Monkey Bar Trash. That was the pubs and the nightclubs you would go to, right? So you used to always see the players like who you either been playing against or whatever, cutting about. So I was out with big Jack Ross that night, who was still at Clyde, and a couple of other guys. And who did I see standing? Well, I was in the Monkey Bar, and who did I see kind of 20 yards away from me standing with a group of people? Michael Moles. So I'm going to Jack, well, last Saturday, he's, you know, tell me how good I was and all that in the game. I said, I'll go and speak to him, a few drinks. And I said, I'll just go and front of people, just go and, how you doing, Michael, all that part, right? So I walked over and tapped him on the shoulder, and he's got his entourage around him, and he just looks at me and goes, "Hi, Michael, how you doing?" And he just looks at me and goes, "Who are you?" "Go away." I says, "Mate, that was Jamie." I didn't even say my surname. I was like, it was like Norwich that time. I was stunned. I couldn't speak. I went, "It's Jamie. I played against you last week." He says, "No, I've no clue who you are. Just please leave us alone." Away you go.
Oh, no.
And I just like, you know, that way I felt as if the whole pub as well had seen it, because I've
Oh,
obviously
mate,
swannied
aye.
over. I think I'm Billy Big Boy, and I walked over and just like, and I walked back to the lad, and honestly, I got the rage, and I'm thinking, I just felt as if I was back in Fernhill again as a boy. I thought I need to attack him.
That's horrible, man.
Imagine doing that to me the week before. So I think he knew who I don't know. So he just like kind of
I just
brushed me
you
off like, as if I was a wee like daft boy, and it just like so humiliating, man. I felt as if I was back in that treatment table again in Norwich singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It was like that moment of embarrassment.
That's like
So,
one of us are going to meet you in a pub one day and go up and do that, and you're going to be like, "What? Fuck off."
I might try that just to see how
Yeah.
you see See how
It's
nice
not
you
bad.
feel.
The three of us look the same, so you could do. Oh, how you doing, Jamie? Well, it's David.
I know.
Well, it was close. It was one of his.
We'll do that, right? We'll do that, and then
Careful, mate.
horrible.
So what is it you're up to these days, mate?
So I've got my own business now, but a couple other business partners. So I'm wearing I'm advertising clearly here. Can you see it? I didn't wear this. I didn't wear this deliberately, but I thought I would stick it on. So game changing media. So it's like a sports marketing business. So that's amazing. So when I retired. I had to try. You know, we've not even spoke about this. I know we've probably chatting for about an hour, but I had a hip injury at 28, 29, and doctors didn't know what it was, and the physio thinks I'm making it up and all that, and I'm getting stuff going in my head, like I'm pretending I'm injured and that. I'm telling them I've got this pain in my groin. So eventually I go for a scan at Ross Hall, and then it's a pre-season game against Fulham, and I remember getting called in at the office. So this is the season, we've just been relegated from the SPL into the Championship with Jerry Britton and Derek White, our managers. And we're playing Fulham in a pre-season friendly, so it's an evening game, and I've turned up at Firhill, and Jerry goes, Mitch, you've got a minute. And I thought, what have I done here? I was thinking, I was out at the weekend, I was thinking all sorts, have I been whatever? And I get called into the office, and I walked into the office, and there was about 8 people there. There was the club doctor, the physio, a couple of directors, chairman, manager, Derek. He said, sit down. And I goes, what's going on? And he goes, we've had your x-ray results back, you've got a degenerative right hip. This is the doctor telling me this. So you've got osteoarthritis in your right hip, and basically you need to stop playing professional football immediately, or else you'll be like in a wheelchair or something by the time you're, I can't remember the phrase you used, I think it was wheelchair, because obviously my mind was going, in your mid-30s. So I was 28, so I had a year left in my contract, or 2 years left in my contract at the time. And it's just like one of them, a bit like the Norwich moment. You go, what do you do in this scenario? So I played that season. I played through it. I decided to play on. So I don't think many Thistle fans or whatever knew that, but I decided to play through it. The agreement was I wouldn't really train much. I was actually looking back, it's quite good. So you train on a Friday and play on a Saturday. I was a bit like Paul McGrath. Remember him? He used to play for Aston Villa with his knees. He couldn't train. He would just play. So that was me. So I just used to play on the Saturday, but quite quickly you can see my level was going, because I was losing maybe a yard or two a pace, and I was quite sharp and quick, which was my game. So once that goes, I could see I was struggling, and people could see I was struggling, but I continued to play on, and then it got out, and opposition players knew, because obviously you can't keep that a secret within the game. So there's no mercy, there's no like feeling sorry for me. So I just used to get people would just, be all over me, because they knew my reaction times were slowing down because of the hip injury. And then Dick Campbell come in as manager in the January. So Jerry Britton and Derek White get sacked, and Dick come in with Jimmy Boney's as assistant. And that was an experience for 5-6 months. That was the last 6 months in my career, which ended on a sour note. So out of everything, that's probably the saddest part, I think, is the last kind of 5-6 months at Thistle, because I was playing through this injury. I couldn't tell anyone officially, because then it's out. I knew I couldn't play at the level I was playing at. I had Dick Campbell coming in, who wasn't the most empathetic to the situation. So yeah, wasn't great. First training session, I'll tell you this one. First training session, Jimmy Bone. So because of this injury, I had to wear this, to keep the heat in, I had to wear these thermal, like kind of, the Under Armour stuff you get nowadays. It was like thermal joggers, and it was January, so he'd taken over the January, and I was wearing these underneath my shorts, and we're running around Firhill. They'd just joined that morning, introduced himself to the players. I'm one of the senior ones. I'm 28 at the time. I played over, I don't know how many games by that point. I'm jogging around the pitch. I get shouted, get the thermals off. The players of mine will be running around with them on. I just went, listen, physio doctor says I need to wear them. So I don't know if they knew I had this injury or not. Surely you would think they would know. He says, get them off, you'll not be training, or you'll not be playing for me. And I went, I can't, I'm not taking them off. I was a bit of a senior pro now, so I felt like, and I also felt it was really disrespectful to me. I said, I'm not taking them off. I said, I'll be training as hard as I normally train. I said, but I've been I need to wear these to keep the joint warm. He says, no, just get off the training pitch. And so I went off. And that was my very first impression of Dick and Jimmy Bowen. And Dick's still going to this day in various managerial roles. I've seen him a couple of times. We didn't have the best of relationship, but you probably didn't see the best of me, which is understandable, and maybe seen me as I was still like a John Lambie signing and boy that was still hanging about with this injury. So, but it ended pretty brutally. So I'd end of the season, still had a year left. I couldn't even tie my shoelace. It was getting to that stage. I couldn't get in and out of the car. I couldn't function properly. A year left my contract. I said that's me done. I have to retire. And I literally just got my boots and walked out.
Oof.
And that was it. There was nothing. So it was kind of sad ending from everything from Norwich as a 11-year-old to that. And I felt pretty sad about that. And then there was problems with my years left of the contract, trying to negotiate that. They were wanting me to come in and help out around the stadium and all that to earn my wages. It was like,
Bone boy.
no, I'm not doing that. Aye, pretty much. That was pretty much it. I said, I'm not doing that. I'd rather, I'm no. I'll just accept whatever to walk away. And then, so it was a kind of sour ending, really. So at that point, that was 2006. So I just wanted out of football. I didn't want to go down the coaching route. I didn't want to go down the management route. I was kind of like, part of me was glad, to be honest with you, Jamie. Part of me was glad after, from 10 years old to this point, I knew that was me. There was no coming back because of the injury. I knew, and but part of me was glad that I was out of it. I was out of that bubble, and I felt like a kind of weight lifted off me. So I just wanted completely out of it. So the wee bit of time off, I didn't have a lot of money. I used to just get it and spend it, which is disgraceful. Just did financial education stuff for players, which we're working on at the moment with one of the projects I'm involved in. But I had a wee bit of money set aside. Not a lot, as I say. So I was married at the time. My daughter was 2, and she's now 21, which is unbelievable. Olivia, so she was 2, so I had to no earnings, no income coming in. So I got a job in a bank. I managed to get a job with RBS, luckily, because I never worked before. Wages were terrible. The woman gave me an opportunity because she seen something in me, and then ended up staying there for 10 years and worked my way up to a fairly senior position. Because I had that mindset. I thought I need to, like, I'm going to start here, but I'm going, right, you know. So I went from, like, within a year of playing against Henry Larsson to working for RBS in like a call centre type thing. So I was working, you know, guys are looking at me going, and then you just have to do it, you know. But I made lifelong friends in that industry, and I'm glad that happened to me. I'm glad I come out of the game. I had a hip replacement at 33, so I had a hip replacement 15 years ago, which was a great thing because it's obviously I've got a ceramic hip, but it's cured the issue, so I can run, I can play tennis, I can play football and stuff like that. And then a couple of years ago, I got this opportunity to work with the Game Changing Media, which is basically, as I say, a sports kind of marketing agency where we'll work with sports clubs, anybody involved in sport, sponsors, and use the power of digital marketing to get a return on investment from them using digital marketing. That's it in a nutshell. So it's good. Back in sport, working with a lot of guys that I worked with before. There's still a lot of them there. Got a lot of good contacts within the game, which helps us, which helps Game Changing Media.
Definitely.
And we've got a full team behind us that have got great skills in marketing. So I'm kind of just the kind of sport commercial side of things, and then we've got a full team behind us who are outstanding in what they do creatively. So I feel pretty lucky to be involved in it.
Aye, definitely. Aye, it was absolutely great talking to you, Jamie, and I'm glad that you're doing so well now and everything in life, pretty much.
I know
You're doing
quite
well
unique.
after all your downfalls and that. You just keep pushing on, and that's
Yeah.
admirable.
I think it's quite a unique story. There's not many that have, you know, it's not a traditional route of of how it worked out and going down there, Norwich, blah blah blah, and back up here, hip replacements, and you know, if you were to write it down, it's quite bizarre when you think about it. But yeah, it's worked out.
Totally agree with Corey, mate. It's been fascinating listening to you, mate. All your stories, stuff like that. And obviously your current life, mate. You're smashing it. So we really appreciate you coming on, mate. Thanks very much for your time, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I'll see you in the pub then for a pint.
Mate, we'll be there.
Aye.
I'll just walk away from you, right?
Oswald.
What one? Oswald.
I use go there. We'll meet you up later on.
Thanks, everybody. See you later.
Catch you
Cheers later.
after.
Bye.
See you, mate.